Today, I'm reacting to John Mayer's watch collection. I'm reacting to the best watch video ever created. The video that got me mad obsessed in watches and absolutely solidified my will to go in the watch industry. Let's get stuck in the video.
Today we're here in Seoul to talk to a watch collector. This watch collector is a guitarist, singer, songwriter, Grammy Award winner, and a friend of mine. His name is John Mayer, and today we're talking about watches.
So casual.
So first question, what was your first great watch, or how did you get into watches to begin?
My first great watch was a Rolex.
This is so weird to see. I now know Ben. Back in the day I didn't.
What was it like meeting him after watching this video?
I was a wee bit starstruck, yeah. I've never really met John. I communicated with John over Instagram, but big fan. Like,
I had the same experience that everyone else has when they first get a really nice watch. People always do this. Wow.
That's true. When you give people a watch, oh, it's heavy. It is just this magic thing, this precious thing, which is called a luxury watch.
Are there any times that you think that you've lost, or any times that you regret buying a watch? Or?
Yeah, the first 12 watches. The first 10 to 12 watches where you think you're amassing a collection.
Yeah.
You're not. Then, I think it was like a double red Sea Dweller. Then I kind of got it. It turned. That got me into old things.
With a double red Sea Dweller, John Mayer is referring to a reference number 1665. That is a Rolex Sea Dweller that very much looks like a Rolex Submariner. However, this watch had a depth rating of 2,000 feet. And the reason why we call it the double red Sea Dweller is because it has two lines on the dial in red. So not in white, in red. It says Sea Dweller, which is written in red, and underneath that it says Submariner 2000, also written in red. In later stages, this was made in white. This is a very collectible watch because they only made that dial, the double red, for a very short amount of time.
Then I kind of got it. It turned.
That is proper collecting. Small details like that double red, or even a Sigma dial, or even if you look at vintage Daytonas, the big red. There's so many variations of different dials on different watches of Rolex. The smallest differences became very collectible. As well as that, throughout the years, we've seen several misprints, including in the recent years, a Rolex Explorer that had the double 9.
There's people who collect guitars, there's people who collect bottles of wine. People who collect cigars. You aspire to do well in life, and maybe you pick up a passion. There's always something to aspire to. I remember the first time I was at Cellini in New York and I saw a Langenson datograph, and it said 45 on the back of it. And I went, no, that's not for me. That's never, nope, could never.
Not for me either, like.
I've had people not understand the watch thing. I had to explain it to them 5 years ago, and now they want me to help them.
For sure.
Get the first watch.
Yeah.
It is actually contagious.
When I started watching at the age of like 16, nobody got it. Nobody got what I saw. And for the majority of my life, I've been ridiculed for this hobby. And now, today, well, I am being celebrated for it. So I appreciate your love and support.
You're ridiculed still as well.
Yeah, thanks. Appreciate you.
I think also when you think about what watches were when they came out last century, I mean, these were tools. You know, these were essentially
right.
something to like get stuff done.
That's right.
And if you treat watches that way, then it's no big deal.
They were the iPhone 5
For sure.
of their day.
Yeah, you just needed one.
It has a chronograph. That's
That's
like an
helpful,
app.
yeah.
A GMT is one of the world's greatest apps.
Yeah, for sure.
It is. The GMT is hands down the greatest complication in a watch for me ever. And when I travel through different time zones, I will always have a GMT watch on my wrist. And let me explain. A watch with a GMT function means can display multiple time zones in one go. The Rolex GMT Master has a fourth hand. So it has a minute hand, it has a second hand, it has an hour hand, but it also has a GMT hand. And the GMT hand is the hour hand for your second time zone. Meaning you still need to use the normal minute hand to see the time.
So what did you bring with you on tour?
I'm only bringing about 2 watches on tour. I'll show you one that I just got. This is the Patek 5164A.
Travel time.
They call it the travel time.
Yeah.
It's a great watch, and I wear it on stage most of the time.
Tiffany dial as well?
That is a Tiffany dial.
I don't think I've seen that before.
I always like the rare inside. Look closer.
In recent years, I really got conflicted with the Aquanaut. What you see here is a very rare variation of a 5164. A Tiffany stamped, or we call that a double stamped watch. A watch that was produced by Patek Philippe, but retailed by Tiffany & Co. Back in the day, this was normal. Certain watches had a Tiffany stamp. Certain retailers that sold the watches, or that held the dealership of those watch brands, put the name on the dial when they sold the watch. We actually have seen seen this as well with Cartier. Those are even more rare than Tiffany & Co. For myself, I love the functionality of a travel time, meaning with one push of a button, it changes from the home time to the time zone you so desire. However, for me, the Aquanaut, I'm not a big fan anymore. I feel ever since the introduction in 1997, this watch wasn't well received. People didn't want the watch, to the period at COVID where it was massively popular because, well, the Nautilus was even more difficult to get. The Aquanaut, of course, went the same route. Listen, they're cool watches, but like, I'm not feeling it.
The other watch that it sort of competes with on this tour is the new GMT Blue Black. The GMT movement is, I think, their greatest movement. It's the best contemporary.
Correct. This is what I talked about. We have the minute hand, we have the hour hand, we have the second hand, and we have the GMT hand.
Do you keep these on tour? You bring anything else? Bring anything older?
This is the reference 5002. If you look from like 2002 to 2005 or 6, I'm wearing this watch on stage every single night. If you're landing and the local time is 5 because you landed in LA, you just, done.
You're there.
That's the fastest time setting I've ever had.
Yep.
Then you take it off to go to bed, right? You take it off to go to bed and you put it on the nightstand, and it's a clock.
Got a giant clock.
You have a clock.
That made me buy a 5002.
If you're a watch lover, sometimes the blue book value doesn't matter. This is the original Cousteau diver's watch.
I had that Cousteau diver's watch in the really early stages of my career when I sold watches. I took that watch on consignment and I actually regret selling that watch.
You just look at that dial and it's really one of the coolest dials I've ever seen.
And the funny bit is that Cousteau diver watch is a constant factor in my career. So I've of course seen that with John Mayer. It's one of the first watches I actually sold, as well as that it was a watch that was owned by my former boss, a boss that made the most significant impact on me and on my life. He passed away in recent years. Great guy. I worked for him when I was 18 years old. He fired me when I was 20, but like for rightful reasons. But I've learned the most in that time.
It's a Comex 1680. As the story goes, they never went in the water because they weren't pressure rated to be able to go down as far as their divers were.
Comex 1680. 1680 is the reference number of the Submariners. You have the 1680, 16800 and 168,000. A fun fact about the 168,000, that's a watch that was introduced in 1987 and it was the first ever 6-digit reference number by Rolex, only in 1987, because the year after they went back to 5 digits to then later, well, go to 6 digits that they have today. This watch was stamped with Comex. We call it a Comex Submariner. And Comex was a French dive institution that done research in the bottom of the sea and whatever. And Rolex made specific watches for them and they were labeled with the name Comex. Of course, this was to make sure that the divers that used those watches weren't selling them when they had them. It was basically a protective seal. It's a Comex property. Later years, it became a very collectible watch. At a later stage even, Comex divers were specifically able to buy the Rolexes with the Comex name at a discount. The irony of that is, of course, today they're very collectible and very valuable.
This is a watch, if you wore to dinner, it's invisible to people unless they know what it is.
Absolutely.
Those are my favorite watches. Along with that Comex, the military sub, there's a 5513 and there's a 5517. And this is the 17.
The irony of this watch is that watch is also a massive impact on my career. In my early stages, I found a 5517, which is a variation of the 5513. Recognizable because of the 60-minute counter on the bezel. And it had another trick up its sleeve. Well, several tricks. The 5517 was the military variation of the 5513, meaning it was combat ready. It was ready to fight. A watch was ready to fight. And the 5517, and I'll show you some photos here that I have from the first 5517. A watch that I actually found here in Northern Ireland and a watch that I then later sold to a collector in England. Differences between the two watches weren't really the movements, but there were small details in that, which one was legibility. The hands needed to be different than the 5513. So the hands needed to be thicker. And Rolex used for the 5517 the Schwartz hands, as we call that. And they look a wee bit different. Next to that, a normal Submariner has lugs and a spring bar. The spring bar you can remove to replace the bracelet or to put a strap on. Well, that wasn't the case with the 5517 because the spring bar was actually soldered between the lugs. So it was fixed. So you couldn't remove it, it couldn't fall off during combat, and it was just extremely durable. Next to that, if you look at the bezel, it is a 60-minute counter. And if you look at the 5513, it's a 50-minute counter. Now, the 60-minute counter is not something new. We've seen that in the Sea Dweller before, but never really on the Submariner until the 5517. And of course, the letter T. And the T on the dial stands for tritium, meaning the watch was was loaded with radioactive material to lume the dial. So what I'm going to show you here is my first or second year in business. I found a 5517 in Strabane. Little did they know that they had something very rare in their hands. Well, here you see a complete beaten up 5517 with a wrong bezel, with the right hands, with that right handset, the Swartz hands. I later got an offer on the Swartz hands for £25,000 just on the hands alone. Replaced the bezel, but luckily didn't do anything with the dial, and that kept it relatively all right. Although a bezel is not easy to find, it's easier to find than the hands. Let me put it that way.
6263 non-Paul Newman Daytona. And I almost would say black dial.
Yeah, you gotta go black. Black on black.
Yeah, there's something about that watch.
I have that exact variation as well.
You still have it?
Yeah, that's wild. I'm very proud to sometimes speak with John Mayer. Well, speak is a big word. We exchange messages. And for me, one of my big goals is to make a video with John Mayer, make a video with him about his current state of collection. And not just with John Mayer, I want to do that across the entire of America. I'm actually driving in August from, well, the entire length of America, from New York to Los Angeles, and I would love, it would mean the world if we can make several videos with several watch collectors, talking watches like this with several people in the US. Like, I would love to do this with Joe Rogan. What we've done with Tom Segura, what we've done with Luke Combs, I want to do that with so many more people, but I want to do it my way. And I really hope we can make something happen, so we need to start DMing people, to be honest. And if you have any suggestions yourself who we need to make a collection video with, drop them in the comments now. And if you are connected to anyone, well, please help a brother out, will you?
Sydney Sweeney.
It's the only vintage Daytona you'll ever need. If you wore this out, people would go, that guy knows what he's doing.
Absolutely.
The other one that sort of is its mate, I believe, in my opinion, is the 5970. And there's nothing special about either of these watches in that they're not double stamped. This one doesn't have Tiffany on it, neither of them do. There's nothing interesting about the dial outside of what's offered in the catalog. It's just sort of the Daytona of Patek. But they tell stories. I mean, that was my tour for 5-6 years.
Yeah.
That was me in Germany, jet lag, tired, broken shell of a man. Sometimes it just comes down to you and your watch.
Yeah.
And you go, can I please get a hotel room before the gig to sleep for 3 hours? And they dump you in a hotel room like you're in the Bourne Identity or something. And you just have this in your watch. That's really a bonding thing, you know? This is when I go away on vacations. I have great times. I have margaritas in the pool, staring at this watch, going like, wow, this is cool.
It's a cool watch, for sure. I don't think he's wearing that anymore though. I think he's now off to the APs and the Rolexes and the crazy Rolexes. I don't think he's wearing the Cousteau anymore. What you liked 10 years ago is not what you like today. Even what I liked last year, it's not something I like this year. It's weird. Collecting watches is a weird type of hobby.
Not materialistic as much as people may think. You have to have these to say you collect. Who knows if it's a tick or if it's, you know, a blessing in some way or another, but people have that tick. I have that tick. I've had it since I was born. People say, well, I have the time right here. It's 1:58, and that's not what it's about. For me, I get into things very deeply when I get into them. I got into the guitar, and I never stopped.
It's wild. That video changed my life, pushed me in a direction that I am today. I want to make videos with these guys like this. PrideandPay.com.